My name is John Morris. I'm the IWSA board chair. My daughter Miranda is 10. So I joined the IWSA in 2016. And more recently, I've been much more interested in the registry. Obviously, you've heard about messaging of enroll. It's important. Well, for me with Miranda at 10, I talked about it with the dads this morning. A lot of concerns. I'm shifting from those to her concerns. Not that it's completely off my radar, but I'm sort of thinking about Miranda as she moves into the next stages of her life. And it's great. We have a great amount of enrollees. We have 126 participants. And we have 297 submissions. So that means each person who is enrolled has averaged 2.36 submissions. It's great. Thank you. But there's just not enough information about our kids as they get older. And for me, it's sort of that open page again. I hear from you guys coming to WAGR events is super important. But I would say, from what I'm going to talk about here, is that when things come up, consider updating your registry. For someone like me and my daughter Miranda, having more information of what to expect in your teen years, your 20s and 30s is super helpful. And we talk about support and research and the balance. Research is important if we want to have improved lives for our kids. But I also think if we get a better understanding through the registry, we can help support one another much more. And that's sort of my goal with going through this a lot. So registry participants, I'm just going to briefly go over what we have right now. 25 countries are participating from those from 25 countries. Here's the makeup of those who had a diagnosis of Wilms or nephrotic breast. You can see it for around 50.8%. Not much different than the 2021 WAGR Spectrum study. Aniridia, as you can see, a very large proportion of our folks do have aniridia. Genitourinary urinary anomalies, 58%. And then for those who have a range of cognitive, behavioral, or emotional issues, over 90% do. And if we drill that down further, here are the primary behaviors that manifest. Aggressiveness, over 50%, distractibility, almost 65%, and temper tantrums way up there as well. It is skewed a little bit more towards the male versus the female. One of the things I want to look at a little bit further is associations with age ranges. Long term, everyone here has had different conversations. What works? Is it therapies? Is it medication? Is it a combination? What doesn't work, right? Because that's just as important as well. Are there things that people grow out of? Are there things associated with puberty or pre-puberty? These are things that we can continue to look at in the registry, and I will continue to look at. But I think the more people update these things, it gives us a more accurate sense of what we're looking at, and it allows other researchers, as well as us, to maybe come up with some answers. Or maybe, I don't know, anyone here has had a solution, something that's worked, maybe you can have it quicker for those of us who are coming in. So as far as the registry findings, the frequencies are consistent with the 2021 analysis, sorry. Again, ongoing review of the registry updates are critical. I'm going to continue to do that, looking at identifying conditions. We have Jen working through CHOP with the genotype-phenotype study, which I'll speak on shortly. But the goal is, as we continue to analyze this, get a better idea of these conditions, let's start pulling in other researchers as well and help support our kids as they're getting older. And again, how many of you have had doctors who don't know about these conditions? Yeah, it's scary. And Kelly made a good point, right? We're trying to find more conditions associated. That's scary, right? Who wants our kids to possibly have more things? But kids are going to keep getting older. If we can be prepared for those new things, I think we're going to be in better situations. We can be more of an advocate with these physicians we're seeing. And here's a great example of it. So in Europe, I know we're challenged because the European Wilms guidelines kind of say to cut off our kids with testing. And our 2021 study really helped us to realize that, no, our kids need further testing. They need to continue to be tested. So this information has been created, and Kelly and Sherry did a great job making this, and it's in your folders. But this information was gathered by us, it was created by us, by everyone working so hard to take the time to input this information. And this is just a beautiful example of what we can do moving forward with other conditions, potentially, if we continue to update our registry. Sorry for the lecture. And I'm just going to give a personal experience of what I've been going through and sort of kind of connecting the registry. I even kind of joked about it the one day at home because we've been going through a lot. Miranda had a lot of eye conditions, and then this kind of popped up, and I was like, oh, I should go on the registry. No, I wasn't thinking like that. I just knew eventually I had to do it. Certainly in our most stressful situations, we don't think about doing something like this. But scoliosis is a normal condition, right? It affects 2 to 3% of the general population. Most people know what it is. And it's first screened for in normal kids sometime when they start to have growth spurts. So think like 10 to 12. Are our kids' growth spurts normal? No, not at all. Are our kids normal with anything? But early detection is really important. It's really important. It can be very benign. You can have mild scoliosis and grow out of it. But if it's not caught or observed, you can have long-term breathing problems, heart problems, spinal problems, surgery, which the outcome is really challenging for neurotypical kids, but even worse for atypical kids. So early detection is huge. And so 2 to 3% of our population, here's what our registry shows. And it's 108 people, which is, people might not think that's a big number. That's at least 20% of our population. And over 20% of our kids report having it. And so Miranda, right, no screening, she was under 10. I happened to be giving her a shower and was thinking, it's kind of odd. So like this random curve. Went to the doctor. The doctor said we didn't need to trace. She's too young. She hasn't gotten any taller this past year. Right. So anyway, I'm pretty stubborn. I know very easily. So we got the x-rays, and she was already at a 28-degree curve, which is pretty significant. It's not like, oh my God, we need surgery. Don't think that way. But we had to jump into that right away for 18 hours per day. And I feel like I got lucky. I'm an orthopedic person. Like, I've done it for 20 plus years, and I got lucky. And I can't say that's the same for the rest of our families. So it's sort of like that. Now we know it's in the registry, but physicians don't know this. So what do we do about it? Well, I think the first thing is this: we have conversations about it. We realize and highlight the things that are more predominant in our kids than the rest of the population, which allows us to be better advocates for our kids. The second part is updating your registries. I added this part with Miranda, which hopefully will help kids that might not even be born yet. And again, in the long run, hopefully these things will be researched more, and it would be great if that kid who's not born yet goes to a physician who is more prepared. That kid who's 9 or 10, they're going to be more aware, hey, you need to be out on the lookout for this, because it happens more with your kids than others. Again, that's long term, but if we don't put in the work in the short term, we don't get there in the long term. So again, what are the next steps? I think everyone heard my message. Please update it. My goal is eventually to have some type of age range risk profile. Sort of had that with the 2021 study, but I think we can do a better job cleaning and organizing that, so that when your kid becomes a 20-year-old, what do you have to look out for? What can you put behind you? You don't have to worry about anymore. 30s, 40s, all of those things. One of the things that came up in Europe a lot of people ask me about life expectancy. Does anybody else ever wonder about that? We don't have that on it. Like, people aren't going to register and update when that occurs. I don't expect them to. I know I don't. But there's no reason to think that our kids are not going to live a normal life. length of life. Quality of life is the issue. Chronic kidney disease, obesity, deconditioning, all of those things that can be monitored if we know what to look out for, so that way, instead of worried about how long they live, we can think about the quality of their life while they're living. Again, an expected normal length of time. So the last part is the genotype phenotype study. So it is still ongoing. It is unfortunately because for no other reason other than just health systems, it's only for US families because we cannot, it's still illegal. You cannot take medical records from Europe and bring them to the US and vice versa. And so due to that, we do have to limit this. What I always say with that is, if we get 30 or 40 US-based families, we get their medical history, we get their genotyping, and we look at those associations, that's going to help people who live everywhere, right? Just because we only know about the folks in the US, what they're testing in correlation to those symptoms, it's going to check a lot of those boxes or concerns for folks who live in Europe or in Asia and such. And so Andrew at CHOP is waiting. He is still available. I have QR codes if anybody wants them. It's pretty simple. You do actually now he has it valid. You can do a consent over the phone. And then he sends you a spit kit. Only your kid has to do it. And then it's a medical release where they can grab your medical records. And again, all they're doing is looking at the comparison of these.